Shri Satchidananda Satguru Sainath Maharaj ki Jai. Om Sai Ram. Let us understand chapter number 13, the cure of Bhimaji's tuberculosis. But before that, let us do the Namasmaran, followed by chapter number 13, the cure of Bhimaji's tuberculosis, and we will end the chapter with the aarti. Shri Satchidananda Satguru Sainath Maharaj ki Jai. Om Shri Sai Nathaya Namaha. 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 Om Sai Ram. Chapter number 13, the cure of Bhimaji's tuberculosis. I bow down to Shri Ganesh. I bow down to Shri Saraswati. I bow down to the Guru. I bow down to the family deity. I bow down to Shri Sita Ramachandra. I bow down to Shri Sainath. Baba's words were short like the Vedas, pithy, deep, and full of meaning, very comprehensive but compressed. They were deep in meaning and very exact. They were never futile, they were balanced and priceless. Remain aware and alert about your past and future. Accept your fate and manage within your means. Always be contented. Fret over nothing. Oh, though I am a fakir and I have no home or household, sitting uninvolved in one place, leaving aside all mundane matters, yes, Maya is inevitable. She even harasses me often. I forget her, but she does not forget me. She always comes and embraces me. Adi Maya originates from God and bewilders even Brahman and others. That then what could be said about a poor fakir like me? Only the mercy of God can save you from its clutches. Without continuously reciting God's name, this attachment will not be destroyed. This is the way Baba described the powers of Maya to his devotees and extolled the recitation of God's name as an anecdote of Maya. Saints are my incarnations, as Krishna has said in the Bhagavad when talking to Uddhava, who does not know these clear words. Therefore, for the sake of the welfare of his devotees, whatever the great Sai Cloud of Mercy said, explaining the substance of the statement. Listen to this with great humility. Such pious persons have become my followers, whose sins have been destroyed, and they have understood me. If you recite Sai Sai always, I will take you beyond the seven seas. If you believe in my words, you will certainly be benefited. I do not need to elaborate or worship either 16-fold or 8-fold. Where there is infinite faith, I reside there. So spoke Baba to his devotees from time to time with tender love. Let us derive solace from the recollection of these words. Such is the kind Sai, friend, and benefactor who is the protector of those who are surrendered to him. Just listen to this miracle he performed, espousing the cause of a devotee. Drive away the waywardness of the mind. Concentrate properly and listen to this new story. You will thereby be fulfilling your desires. The shower of nectar like words from the mouth of Sai is itself the fruit and gains of life, who will then complain of physical discomforts at Shirdi, who is aware of the advantage gained for himself. In the last chapter, we have heard about the darshan given to an Agnihotri of his own guru, who had already expired, filling him with immense happiness. This chapter relates and even more interesting story about a devotee suffering from tuberculosis whose health was restored by teaching him a lesson in his dreams. Therefore, O devotees, listen attentively to the story of Sai's profound nature, which burns all the sins. This narrative is sacred and purifying like the holy water of the Ganges. Blessed are the ears of the listeners, for they become the means to gain good now and there hereafter. Let us now compare it with nectar. But nectar cannot be sweeter than this. Nectar will save the life, but this story will give freedom to the cycle of birth and death. People say they are powerful and they can do whatever they wish. One who thinks like this should listen to this carefully. If the human being is genuinely independent, then when he strives day and night to achieve happiness, why does he gain only unhappiness? This is the story of existence. If a person is on guard to avoid unhappiness at every step, miseries follow quickly in search of him and keep a track behind him. If one tries to shake them off, they hold on by the neck. If one tries to brush them off, they cling more. Vain in man's life against it, it only debilitates him. If a human being was really free, he would be completely happy and he would not have known the trace of unhappiness. Assuming that he was a free being, he would never commit sins and only accumulate his store of merits, thus enhancing his happiness. But a human being is not independent. His previous birth deeds are attached to him, and the ways of karma are strange. He is forever a puppet in the hands of the karma. One tries to think of good deeds, but one is dragged towards sins. Wanting to be meritorious, one ends up being the evildoer. Now, listen to the story of Bhimaji Patil of Narayangao village of Junnar Taluka of Pune district. It is as sweet as a nectar. Bhimaji was a well-to-do person. He was hospitable to everyone. A sad he never said anything bad, and he was never sad and always had a cheerful disposition. Destiny plays strange games without any rhyme or reason. We can either gain or lose. Sufferings born of karma come to you as a disease. In 1909, Bhimaji was miserable. He started having cough and tuberculosis. He developed high temperature. His cough became unbearable and the fever greatly increased day by day, becoming persistent. Bhimaji loses hope. He was always frothing at his mouth, had a bad taste in the mouth, and vomited blood. He had a chronic stomach ache, felt nauseous and restless. He became a bedridden patient. He lost his vigor, his limbs and weakened, becoming thinner. All kinds of treatment was tried. He was extremely miserable. He lost the taste of food and nourishment and could not digest even the rice gruel or a light diet. The condition was unbearable, thereby he did not know what to do. All the rites and rituals were performed. Doctors and Vaidyas gave up, and he lost hope of survival and remained dejected. Patil was depressed. He felt he would have survived only a few days. Day by day, he became more tired and started counting his days. He worshipped his family deity, but even she could not restore his health. Patil got fed up and of consulting astrologers, extrotists, and all sundry. Some refer to him his condition as a sickness of the body, the others the visitation of fate, which human endeavor could not control and which must therefore be borne. Doctors were tired, Hakims tried all remedies but failed. Nobody could do anything. All efforts were futile. Patil was extremely sad. He said, "Oh Lord, what is it I have done? Why is it that nothing avails? What kind of a sin is this? The ways of God are strange. He never reminds you of his existence, even for a moment when you are happy. His ways are indeed unusual, but when it comes to his mind, he sends difficulties one after one and makes the person remember him and call out, 'Oh Narayan, come running to my help.' So be it. His intense and pious cries were heard by God and was moved. Bhimaji was inspired to send a letter to Nana. Nana will be able to do something which no one has been able to do. Patil firmly believed this. That was the auspicious beginning of the cure of his disease. Later, he wrote a detailed letter and sent it to Nana. Remembrance of Nana was itself inspired by Sainath. It paved the path of destruction of the disease. Saint deeds are unpredictable. Whatever is the cycle of time, there is also an underlying plan of God. Therefore, no one should think contrary and brag about it. Whatever good or bad takes place, it is only due to God who holds the reins. He is the protector and the destroyer. He is the only active force, that is the doer. Patil wrote to Chandorkar, "I am fed up of taking medicines. I'm tired of this life. I find the world wearisome. Doctors have given up hope and declared that the disease is incurable. Hakims and Vaidyas are bewildered too. I have lost all hope. Yet there is only one request which I lay at your feet. I will meet you without fail. I have this strong desire." Chandorkar read this letter. He felt very sad at heart for Bhimaji. Patil was a good soul. Nana was moved. In reply, he suggested one remedy: surrender at Sai's feet. This is the only saving grace. He is both mother and father. He is the compassionate mother of all who comes running at your call, takes pity on you, picks you up in her arms, understanding the needs of the children. Even leprosy is cured by mere darshan. What is to be said about tuberculosis? Have no least doubt. Go and surrender at his feet. He grants whatever anyone asks. This is his creed. Therefore, I say, make haste. Take Sai's darshan. The greatest fear is the fear of death. What else can there be? Go and hold fast to Sai's feet. He alone will make you free of fear. Patil's plight was unbearable. He arrived at a perilous state of life. When will I meet Sainath? When will I accomplish the task? He thought. Thus, Patil became bewildered. He asked that preparations be made quickly for his departure to Shirdi the next day. Thus, with a firm determination, Patil took leave of all and started to Shirdi for Maharaja's darshan. Bhimaji took his relatives and set out hurriedly. He was most anxious to know when he would see Shirdi. The cart arrived at the front gate of the courtyard of the masjid, and four persons held Bhimaji and carried him up the steps. Nana Sahib was there. Madhavra also came. Everyone found Sai's feet more easily accessible to Madhavra. Looking at Patil, Baba said, "Shama, from where do you get hold of these scoundrels and dump them on me? Does this become you?" Bhimaji put his head at Sai's feet and said, "O Sai Nata, have pity on this hapless creature. Protect me, O caretaker of the weak." Seeing Patil's plight, Sai Nata took pity on him. Patil felt sure that his suffering would come body so restless. Sai Samartha, the ocean of mercy, was greatly moved and said smilingly, sit down and stop worrying. Wise people do not worry. No sooner you stepped into Shirdi, you are destined that your miseries would have got over. However deeply immersed in the ocean of trouble, buried deep in the valley of misery, know that when he climbs the steps of Masjid Mai, he will ride a wave of happiness. The fakir is very kind. He will destroy your troubles from the very root, who look after you lovingly. He has tender feelings towards all. Therefore, you be at rest. Stay at Bhima Bai's house. You will get relief within a couple of days. Just like the case of the dying person receiving showers of nectar, who immediately revives. Such was Partal's satisfaction. Hearing those words of Sainatha was like a nectar to the man facing immediate death or water to a man dying of thirst. When he sat in front of Baba for an hour, his vomiting of blood stopped, which otherwise he would do in every interval of 5 minutes. Baba did not examine the patient, nor did he ask for the case history. Only with a mereful glance the disease was destroyed from the root. It is enough to receive the merciful glance. Even a dry stick can sprout leaves. Flowers can blossom without a spring, and withered tree can become laden with fruit. Ill health or good health, it is the question of whether the store of good deeds is exhausted or that of sins. There is no escape to experience the effect of destiny. He had the disease only because of this fate. This is the rule applied to the cycle of birth and death. There is no remedy or freedom from it other than to undergo the suffering. But if by good fortune one can get the darshan of a saint, this is one certain means to cure illnesses and to heal it without any suffering. A disease itself shows that this is the destiny. But if a saint casts a merciful glance, it takes away the misery of a destined suffering. The actual remedy lays in Baba's words. On one occasion, he cured malaria by feeding yogurt and rice to a black dog. You may think these stories are deviations, but listening to them all together, you will realize the significance. In any case, it is Sai who has reminded me of it. I will tell you my own story. Sai himself has said this. He only has reminded me of these stories at this time. There was a person by the name of Balaganpat who was a tailor by caste and was a great devotee. He came to the masjid and sat in front of Baba and prayed imploringly. What sin have I committed? Why doesn't this malaria leave me? Baba, I have tried a number of remedies, but it does not leave the body. So now what shall I do? I have tried all medicines and decoctions. Now at least you tell me some remedy so that this fever will leave me. Baba felt pity for him. He replied and gave a remedy for malaria. Now listen to this marvelous story. Feed a few morsels of curd and rice to a black dog near a temple of Mother Lakshmi. You will be cured immediately. Bala was a little anxious. He went home and searched. He found some leftover rice and curd nearby. Bala thought to himself, though I have procured curd and rice, will that black dog be there near the temple at the right time? But this worry of Bala was unnecessary. When he reached the appointed place, he saw a black dog approaching him with a wagging tail. Seeing everything work out right, Bala was very pleased. He fed the dog curd and rice and informed all this to Baba. In short, the whole incident may be called anything by anybody, but since the malaria left him and Bala recovered. Similar was the case of Babu Sahib Bhuti. He had a chill in the stomach and had continuous loose motion and vomiting too. The medicine chest was full of medicines, but none was effective. Bapu Sahib got alarmed and worried due to the persistent loose motion and vomiting. Bapu Sahib became weak and had no energy left for his regular darshan of Baba. Baba came to hear about it. He sent for him and made him sit before him. He said, "Beware, from now onwards you will not go to the toilet. And also, vomiting must stop." Shaking his forefinger before his face, observing him again, he repeated the words. The essence of it is that his words had such weightage that both the ailments got scared and immediately retreated. Booty then felt better. Once there was a cholera epidemic in the village. At that time, Booty suffered from it. He had vomiting and motion simultaneously. He was in distress and had intense thirst. Dr. Pillai was near him. He tried whatever was possible. When finally nothing succeeded, they approached Baba. Every detail of how diseases progressed was related to Baba as a supplication. Pillai asked Baba whether coffee or water would be better to give. Then Baba replied to him, "Drink an infusion of milk boiled with almonds, walnut, and pistachios. This will quench his thirst and disease will be cured immediately." In short, when he was given this infusion to drink, his troubles disappeared. Eat walnuts, pistachios, and almonds. Would they ever give release in the case of cholera? It was enough to repose faith in Baba's words. There was no scope of doubts. Once a Swami from Al Nadi came to Shirdi for a darshan of Sai Samartha and arrived at Baba's dwelling. He suffered from a ear disease. Therefore, he was unwell and had insomnia. Though he had to get himself operated, it was no use at all. He had experienced shooting pain beyond endurance. He could not do anything to control it. He thought of leaving and went to ask for his blessings. He bowed at Sai's feet and received Udi as prasad. The Swami asked for blessings and said, "Always have mercy on me." Madhavrao Deshpande entreated Baba about his ear. Maharaj assured him, saying, "Allah will make it well." With these blessings, the Swami returned to Pune. 8 days later, his letter came saying that the pain will be immediately subsided. Only the swelling was still there, therefore, an operation was advised. So he came to Bombay for a second operation. He went to the same doctor. Unknown, Baba was obliged to help. When the doctor examined the ear, he saw no swelling anywhere. The doctor said that there was no need for an operation now. The Swami's dreaded worries were over. Everyone was surprised. I just remembered one more story of this nature, which I will now tell the listeners and then end the chapter. 8 days before laying of the flooring in the courtyard of the masjid began, Mahajani suffered from acute indigestion. He began to have loose motions. Leaving all his burden on Baba, he did not take any medicines or himself. He became quite hard. Mahajani knew this that Sai was omniscient. Therefore, he did not describe difficulties to him. When he wills it, he will grant me relief. On his own, having this implicit faith, he bore the disease. Whatever is destined will be suffered. But there should be no break in the puja rituals. This was intense wish of Kaka each day. Later on, when the motions became too frequent and they were out of control, let us see what he did in order to not break the aarti and service. He kept a copper vessel with water on which he could lay his hands even in darkness in the corner of the masjid. He himself would sit near Baba pressing his legs and always remained present at the time of aarti, this being a regular routine. Whenever he got spasm in his stomach, since there was a water pot, he would go to some nearby secluded spot and return after relieving himself. So be it. When they asked Baba's permission to lay the flooring, he gave it to Tatya. Listen to what he said to him. "I'm going to the Lendi. When I return from the Lendi, you may start working off the flooring at that time." Later, Baba returned and sat on a seat. Kaka came in time and started massaging his legs. Devotees from Bombay came by Tongas via Kopargaon by train, which came to halt there. They came up the steps with all the preparations for the puja and bowed down to Baba along with everyone else. Patil from Andheri also came with flowers, rice, and puja items and sat in anticipation. Just then, in the lower part of the courtyard, in the place where Rath used to be kept, exactly at the same spot, the first stroke of pickaxe was struck, and the work of laying the courtyard floor began. No sooner did he hear that noise that Baba shouted strangely. In an instant, he began to transform into Narasimha. His eyes were blazed with fury. Who is striking with the pickaxe? I will break his back. Saying this, he got up with and taking his satka. All present were filled with terror. The laborer threw aside the pickaxe, and fled. Everybody ran helter skelter. Kaka too was frightened. At that moment, Baba held him by his hand and said, "Where are you going? Sit down." Just then, Tatya and Lakshmi had arrived. He started hurling a torrent of abuses at them to his heart's content. The people who were outside the courtyard were also abused. Just then, he picked up a bag of roasted peanuts which he had dropped there. It must have belonged to somebody and fallen in the masjid while running away helter skelter. When Baba had been in a fit of anger, the nuts have been about one full sear. He brought out one handful at a time, rubbed them between the palms, blew them and cleaned them. Then he fed the clean nuts to Mahajani. While he continued to shower abuses on one hand, on the other hand, he continued to clean the peanuts. Eat them, he said. He put clean peanuts in his arm. He too ate a few. In this manner, the bag was emptied. When the nuts were finished, he said, "Bring some water. I am thirsty." Kaka filled the vessel and brought it. He drank some and told him also to drink. While Kaka was drinking, he said, "Go, your suffering has ended." He added, "Where are those wretched Brahmins? Go and fetch them." So be it. The group reassembled. The masjid was crowded as before. The flooring work resumed. Kaka's diarrhea was stopped. What kind of a remedy was this for loose stools? In it is the words of saints that act as medicine. He who regards them as prasad can have need for nothing else. A householder from Harada was suffering from shooting pain in the stomach. He was harassed by it for 14 years. He had tried all kinds of remedies. His name was Dattopant. By word of mouth, he had heard of the powers of Sai, and who a great saint of Shirdi, whose mere darshan solved all difficulties, having such fame of hearing the fame, he went to Shirdi, laid his head at Sai's feet, and begged him to be merciful to him. "Baba, 14 years have passed. The shooting pain in the stomach have pursued me. Enough of it now. It's beyond endurance. I have no strength left to bear it. I have never committed a breach of faith. I have shown no disrespect to my parents. I do not know the deeds of my past birth, due to which I am undergoing this suffering. Only a kind glance from a saint's prasad or blessing, can remove this disease. There is nothing else as effective." Such was Dattopant's experience. As soon as Baba's hand was placed on his head and he received the vibhuti and blessings, he felt relief. The Mahajani made him to stay for some days. Slowly, the shooting pains in the stomach disappeared altogether. Such was the great saint. How shall I describe his powers? His very nature was to oblige others, for he had love for all beings. If we go on praising in words his life, I find one deed is better than the other. Now let me return to pick up the thread of my original narrative about the life of Bhimaji. So be it. Baba asked for Udi, gave a little to Bhimaji, rubbed some on his forehead, and kept his hand on his head. He was ordered to go to the lodging. Patil started walking and went up to the cart on foot. He felt vigorous. From there, he went to the place previously decided. Though the place was small, as it was suggested by Baba, it was important for him. The floor had just thumped smooth with the help of wooden log for the purpose of leveling. Therefore, it was wet. Even then, he obeyed Baba's orders and stayed there itself. He would have got a dry place in the village since Bhimaji had many contacts, but since Baba had particularly indicated that place, he did not think of going anywhere else. He spread out two gunny bags upon the floor, on top of which he spread out his bedding. Patil went to sleep peacefully. The same night this had happened, Bhimaji got a dream. He saw his teacher, whom he knew from childhood, and the teacher began to beat him. He had a cane in his hand, which he practically flayed the skin off his back to make him learn by heart a poem. The student was very miserable. What was that poem? Listeners might get curious to know. Therefore, I will quote the complete poem word by word as I have heard. She is known as a real or ideal wife who thinks she has stepped out on the head of a serpent if she even enters a stranger's house. Her words are so rare that they are like the wealth procured from a miser. She feels profoundly happy when she gives pleasure to her husband, even though there may not be money in the house. She behaves according to the husband's wishes without any hesitation. But he would not understand the reason for this punishment. The teacher would not put aside the cane as he was inflamed with rage and, and terribly determined. Immediately afterwards, he had a second dream, which was a stranger than the first. He saw an unknown person, came forcibly and sat on his chest. He used his chest as a grinding stone and took another stone as a roller in his hand and as it were started grinding. Bhimaji felt choked as if he was heading towards heaven. Finally, the dream ended. He slept with some measures of comfort. The sun rose and Patil woke up. He felt rejuvenated and he had never felt like this before. He completely forgot about the disease. How could anyone remember to look for the sign of caning or being used as a grinding stone? People say that dreams are unreal, but sometimes one gets contrary experiences. Patil was completely cured of his disease on the same day and his was over. Patil was very happy. He felt as if he had a new lease of life. Then he started walking slowly for Baba's darshan, seeing Baba's moon-like face. The ocean of happiness welled up in Patil. He was in raptures and swooned in ecstasy with tears of joy raining down his face. He laid his forehead upon Baba's feet. How blissful was the aftermath of the beating and grinding that he had suffered. How can an insignificant creature like me ever repay your obligation? I know it is to be impossible, but I only put my head at your feet. This is the only way that I can repay. There is no other means other than putting my head at your feet. Inconceivable and irrefutable is the miracle of yours, O Baba Sai. Patil stayed singing such praises for a month. He also gratefully remembered Nana's obligation. He returned, being completely gratified. Thus, he remained contented with devotion and faith. In his gratefulness to Sai, he came to Shirdi often. One needs no more than two hands and a head to show gratefulness to Sainath if it is done with a steady mind and faith in him alone. the exclusion of all others. Whoever is in difficulty performs Satyanarayan Puja if a certain calamity is averted or some boon is received. Since then, Patil started doing the Satya Sai Vrat every Thursday after an early bath and be abstemious. As people read the Satyanarayan Katha, Patil recited the chapters of Das Ganu's Avarachin Bhakta Leelamrit relating to Sai's life with love. In this book of 45 chapters, Das Ganu describes the lives of many bucks. Out of these, three relate to Sainath, those formed the Satya Sai Katha. Out of all the vratas, this was the best. Patil read these three chapters and experienced boundless joy and was happy. Patil gathered together relatives, brothers, friends, neighbors, and did regularly the Satya Sai Vrat very happily. The Naivedya was of the same kind, being 1 1/4 measures. The rest of the rituals were the same. In one's case, it was Narayan, and in the other, it was Sai. Not a single was overlooked. Patil started the convention. It became a custom in the village, and people started observing Satya Sai Vrat one after the other. Such are the saints, the merciful ones. When the proper time comes, they remove all worldly cares of the devotees by the mere darshan and even change their destiny. The next narration herein will bring about a person craving for progeny and the marvelousness of oneness among saints, a resident of Nanded town who was an affluent Parsi, will have a son after receiving Baba's blessings. Baba indicated that Mauli Sahib was the saint from that place. The Parsi returned to his own place full of joy. It is a very lovable story. Listeners should listen to it quietly. Then they will come to realize Sai's all pervasiveness and also his affectionate nature. Pant Hemad surrenders to Sai and bows down to the saints and the listeners. In the next chapter, I will tell you about that which I have already mentioned. Listen with respect. May there be well being. This is the end of the 30th chapter of the Shri Sai Satcharithra, written by the devotee Hemat Pant, impelled by saints and the virtuous people, called the cure of Bhimaji's tuberculosis. This is offered to Shri Satguru Sainath. May there be auspiciousness. Now let us do the aarti. श्री सच्चिदानंद सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय शिरडी माझे पंढरपूर साई बाबा रमावर बाबा रमावर साई बाबा रमावर शुद्ध भक्ती चंद्रभागा भाव कुंडली कंजागा पुंडलिकन जागा भाव पुंडलिकन जागा याहू याहू अवके जन परा बाबा श्रीवंदन साई श्रीवंदन परा बाबा श्रीवंदन तनु बने बाबा साई भाव पाव माझे आई पाव माझे आई भाव भाव माझे आय अनिल घन बने गचरण तुयाति पायन रूप तुझे प्रवीण रंगीन अनंत पूजिम भवेव इन बने नमा त्वमेव माता पिता त्वमेव त्वमेव बन्धु सदा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या दैरङ्गमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव माझ्या प्रसन्नियर्म मुद्याकना वापतन स्वभाव नरोमि अद्यं सचिन्तरस्मै नारायणाय समर्पयामि अच्युतं the listeners to read one chapter of the Sai Satcharithra every day and soak in Baba bliss. Baba bless you. Om Sai Ram.